30 seconds.
From the trenches of motorsports and Gearhead Central, this is RealTuners Radio, your all-motor, boosted, and nitrous-fed hour of power. Now, here's your hosts, the Reverends of RPM, the Faction of Traction, John Bewley, Scott Clark, Bill Fowler, Scott Evans, Mark Dahlquist, Mike Perduto, James Short, Tom Sewell, Brian Barnhill. This is RealTuners Radio.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RealTuners Radio, episode 121.
Good evening, and welcome to RealTuners Radio. Tonight, we officially welcome back John Bewley of Foolproof Performance. And since you guys are asking more technical questions, we brought in Chris Delgado of Pro Speed Autosports, as well as Canadian racer Neil Richard.
No, we didn't. Don't listen to any of that. Don't believe that guy. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Okay, let's try that again. So, it's RealTuners Radio, episode 121. It's Wednesday, April 15th, 2020, and we are on week 4 of the unprecedented worldwide lockdown. Don't let that scare you. Tonight's guest is none other than Wade Rich, dragway director of Bradenton Motorsports Park. And he's new at that, by the way, so congrats on the new job. So warm up the shop, get working on that project, and let's get started. This is RealTuners Radio. So, guys on Ring Central, what's going on? Can you hear me okay?
What's up?
Hey, all right, cool. So let me get our nice pretty picture on there. I apologize everyone for the screwy intro, but I am on the road and doing this from just a laptop tonight. So, anyway, we got a somewhat smaller group than usual because Scott Evans is over there macking on some chick trying to, what's he doing? He's helping her change her oil?
I really hope he turned like the radio on and wherever he's at with her, like, you know, hey, check out this podcast I'm a part of, and then Scott Clark comes in. He's over there macking on some chick in Vegas.
He's just changing her oil, he said, just helping her out.
I think he said changing the transmission or something. I don't know. It sounded like an excuse.
Something about I'm not even going to get into that. All right, so that whole slip yoke comment earlier. So, let's see what happened in the last week. I have a crappy mic tonight. I apologize for that. I don't even have a camera. I might try to hook one up here in a minute. Everyone's locked down, so there's literally not shit going on. I mean, I noticed a little bit of a slowdown business-wise here, but then everybody started getting their stimulus checks and actually scheduled a week worth of tunes up, which was kind of nice. But, Chris, it looks like you're still busy. Are you actually tuning in a car right now?
Yeah, it's actually my buddy's car. I've been sitting on this project for months, and I decided to just finish it.
It's in tuner jail.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we'll get right to it, man. Welcome aboard. So we have... Luckily, tonight, we were able to hook up a guest a lot of you guys provided a lot of good feedback about. Wade Rich, welcome aboard, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Good, man. Good. We won't keep you too long. I mean, sometimes the show's been known to go for 2 hours, but dude, we're not going to make you answer questions that long. We can go a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever. Whatever you feel like doing. We'll know when we're worn out, when people stop asking questions. Generally, we're just going to talk a little bit about your history, and then we're going to start taking questions from the audience. And given that they are generally into tuning and chassis setup and stuff like that, they're gonna want to know as much info as we can get about track prep. Really, that seems to be something. And I personally am interested in event management as well, just because it's you're part of some of the you've kind of happened at the zenith of drag racing in this country, and you guys have some outlawish style events that. are basically the most popular motorsports event in the country right now. So I guess I'll start off with just pure curiosity. Your last 10 or 15 years, or how did you get to where you're at? Where did you start and take all the time you need? We're interested. How did you get started in this?
Well, I've been in the business going on 28 years now. I started in this because I was such a troublemaker when I was a kid that,
Everybody's nodding their head.
oh yeah, I was like, always in trouble, man, doing a lot of stuff I wasn't supposed to. And basically, I took a job here at the track, working for the Williams family. And Art Malone was actually the one that owned DeSoto Dragway back then. The Williams family actually ran the events for him. And it was a pretty, nonchalant undertaking. You just come out here, you mow grass, you pick up garbage, you clean bathrooms, and you scrape racetrack. And I didn't come from a motorsports background. I was just a kid in the country, working on cars and stuff just so you had a ride. It wasn't nothing performance wise. So I just came up through the ranks. I learned as I went along, and one person would leave the job, water box guy would quit, and you got to cover the water box this weekend. Then the staging lane guy quit. Oh, you got to cover the staging lane. So I just learned every job as I went along, and it wasn't one of those deals where I worked a job for a couple weeks. It was like I worked a job for a year and a half, 2 years. So I got experience in every aspect of drag racing. And eventually I moved into a general manager at Sunshine Drag Strip under Todd Dickinson. Was my first management job.
Where's Sunshine? Where was that at?
Yeah. St. Pete.
Got
it's
it.
Now
okay.
Showtime. It's now Showtime
got
Drag.
it. Understood.
Yeah. And well, Todd's like, I'd really like to purchase Bradenton. So I kind of, I knew Art well, so I put those two together. And then that's when I got into management of Bradenton. And then moved into 5 years here, and then went to South Georgia, Mansfield Motor Speedway. We tried to build a track there. Heck, I went to Memphis, and like I said, I just bounced around for quite a bit until I got back over here in Orlando. And then there was a job open over here, so I came back to Bradenton. So
did you move the family around with you all those times, or at what point did did you start the family?
Well, I've been married 3 times, so
gotcha. Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm working on it, but I'm not quite there yet.
I have most of my kids are up and grown. On this last marriage is mine, his, and hers. And and so at this point right now they're going to stay put over in Daytona, close to Orlando, until my two youngest boys graduate, and then I'll move the family over. But this place looks like this is where I'll retire here.
Nice. Okay. Recent move to Bradenton Motorsports Park, so that's I think everybody's kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah, like I said, it's full circle, back to where I came from. Back to the house that built me.
Right on. Is there any particular discipline about running a track, running events, promoting, managing, track prep? Is there any particular discipline you favor or excelled at, or anything like that? Or, I mean, how did you're kind of a jack of all trades. I'm trying to get a handle around what your favorite thing is to do.
I just be consistent. I think is the biggest thing in drag racing, when it comes to racers, race cars, fans. People like to know what to expect. Not a lot of people like surprises. And I say if you stay consistent and you make small changes and you don't, go extreme. I mean, from a point of running a track and prepping a track and stuff like that. Now, promoters are all shock and awe, and they, whatever it takes to get people in. I would never consider myself a promoter. I'm more of a the oil and the squeaky wheel.
Are you saying Duck fires things up to get people to the race?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what Duck does.
Well, I got a bunch of videos I can show you. They're pretty hilarious.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I can bring you up to speed.
day, buddy. Every day.
We actually had Duck on here. What did he do? He pissed a bunch of people off, so he had to make a tour of all the second tier podcasts, and we actually got him on here last year. It was pretty hilarious. So whatever, he had to go around and do his apology tour.
We're second tier now? That's an improvement.
Yeah. Right, exactly. I know we're moving up. No, but he had to go make, like, what do we call it? The apology tour 2019. So we actually got him on here. It was pretty hilarious. But what did he pissed somebody off. But anyway, so all right, that's interesting. Let's move into track prep. I mean, I just and I don't know if you other guys have questions. I'm an engine power EFI, everything ahead of the flywheel guy, so I'm not really super knowledgeable on chassis tuning or anything like that. But I'm dead curious about track prep. Let's say at a long event, like a week-long event, something like a Lights Out or a No Mercy. What is there some? Do you know how that's going to go? I mean, they always seem to sort of go the same way. Do you know how that's going to go at the beginning of the week? And what kind of stuff do you look out for? And what? I mean, feel free to discuss the basics, man. I'm just really curious about what it's like to own that position.
I mean, honestly, track prep is there's no secret to it. I mean, it's I would compare it to prepping a surface for paint. Like you're going to paint a car, everything's got to be clean. Everything's got to be, done just the right way. So when you apply the paint, it lays down nice and pretty and it works for you. But you're in some situations like in South Georgia where it rains a week and, you get moisture underneath the concrete and stuff. I mean, you just have to, you have to stay consistent in what you do because as far as tuners, your tuners guy, all you look at is the data. I mean, a lot of you will come out there and kind of take a peek at the surface, but I don't see tuners walking the surface or anything. They look at the first 10 or 15 feet.
We're way too fucking lazy for that, but yeah.
I know, I get it. You open up the laptop, and it's all your data's right there, so
Sure.
You know what you're dealing with. Well, as long as I make small changes, not huge changes, your data stay consistent. You know what you need to do to the car, your timing, your fuel curve, or whatever else you guys do. That's why I think I have better luck than most people because I won't go out there and chase it. I won't go out there and try to make it killer every pass. I'll go out there and make small adjustments to make it a little bit better. Because if you'll watch anything like Ducks races or anything, you'll see as the track gradually gets better through the week. And it's not just me getting better; it's the tuner getting a grasp hold of the racing surface, and make the car go fast. I don't make cars go fast. I don't proclaim to be the best track prepper in the world. I don't. I'm just more consistent in what I do and meticulous in what I do, so you tuners can figure it out. Because if I go out there and chase it, I give you an A tune-up, and next time you come around and I give you a C tune-up on the racing surface, you're totally lost. So you don't know what to do next time you come around.
Man, it's interesting to hear you say that because my notes here I have, just from my experiences, and we've got guys on here with more experience than me, especially recently, but my experience at the SGMP Lights Out and No Mercy events were that I felt like I was having to get in sync with the track as it went. So, and it always went from an A position to a B. It was never A, B, Z, X, H, K, strange. It literally was, all right, start off easy, and you're going to get into this rhythm as you make more passes, and you're going to get faster and faster, and you might overshoot it one or two times in qualifying or testing. But, but it always felt like it slowly improved over time, even as you fought. Well, you always fight weather there. There's always a rain issue. There's always a moisture thing at some point. And, it's an interesting...
The surface I fight there more than anything. It's very porous, and it needs some help. So.
Do you end up with moisture seeping up through the bottom, or does it hold moisture from the top?
It holds moisture in the concrete. Say if it rains for a couple of days, the surface area just for some reason it just stays damp. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a concrete specialist, so I don't know what. PSI,
but you just know what it's doing. Yeah, maybe not why.
It's like Orlando surface. I know exactly. I wanted a hard PSI concrete. Well, I learned that when I was in Memphis because Memphis had a very porous surface for the first 250 feet. So I asked them to tear it up for me in 6,600, 6,500 PSI hard concrete. Well, the harder it's going to be, the less moisture penetration you're going to get in the surface. So
Got
when
it.
they poured Orlando, I asked for, anything over 5,000. So they gave me 5,500. And that track hardly ever peels. You can't get moisture in it. But South Georgia, I think they
Ah.
use household concrete.
Is that what's going on when it peels? When the rubber peels up or the prep peels up, there's moisture layer in between the
Yes,
concrete and the
yes.
whatever's in the
And
track?
yes, and it's hard to get it out, especially if you have no sunlight. I don't care if you had 100 jet cars that are just going up and down the track to try to, you're not going to get it all out. I mean, the best
Got it.
the best thing for that place is sunshine, and a lot of times, we don't get it, so you'll get an overglued situation. And I mean, of course, you guys will see it. The stuff's all over in front of your tires and your trailer and everything else.
And everybody's bitching. I don't actually have to see it because all the racers come back all pissed and moaning at us. And then we just blame the track prep guy. That's all.
Fine. That's something I've never taken it personally. I try to just be
Sure.
consistent, and
Yeah.
sometimes you're a hero, sometimes you're a zero.
No, it happens. I understand. So, do you get so far as speccing the track prep chemicals that are used? Is this a
Well,
cocktail
I know
mix, or you just open a box and start pouring, or what? How does that work?
sometimes you can mix chemicals together to make it bond better, and but I find that a lot of times, sometimes mixing chemicals is not always the best thing. If you're going to mix it, make sure you mix it through the whole event and you stay with the same compounds through the whole event. Because sure as if you change it in the middle, again, it changes your tune-up.
Gotcha. Delgado, you got any stories about making passes on Wade's prep?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, interesting story. Last time we were at Orlando, I was with Joel Granis and Jack Kudo, and we were doing some testing, and this actually kind of caught me off guard. Wade, I don't know if you remember that day. It was probably the last time we were there, actually. But we were trying to make some hero passes in Jack's car, and he kept blowing pipes off, and he was having all kind of lines popping off because we were trying to make all this crazy boost, and he had this turbo kit was built for 40, 50 pounds of boost, and we're over here making like 80, 85, and it's just blowing stuff up. So we finally get what looked like was going to be just a badass hit, and it gets about 30 feet out, and it spins the tire, knocks the tire off. And we all put our heads down. We're like, fuck. And we start walking back to the trailer. Wade runs up to me real quick. He's like, wait. He's like, don't change anything. Bring the car back around. Let me fix that spot in the track and run it again. And I sat there for a second, kind of taken back. I was like, it's like, holy shit, this guy's like tuning the fucking track for us right now. Like, I've never had anyone stop me and say, hey, let me fix a track. That will go down. It's always been like, well, let's go back and make an adjustment and try to make it, let's chase the track. That just kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but it was kind of cool.
In some test sessions that and listen, I mean, I know some people are coming out there and they are swinging for the fences. So if I see there's a weak point in the track, I'm like, man, let me fix that real quick, and let's try that again. I mean, you didn't get that car that hot. The transmission's not that hot, so it shouldn't take you too long to pull around. So, maybe we need to add a little bit. And maybe that area was dry through there, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it'll be just fine. Well, it wasn't because you were swinging for the fence. So I understood that. So I'm like, here, just let me fix that section.
Yeah,
And it was just like that with the Sweet 16 races, the original Sweet 16 race. You know how fun it was for me to be able to pick some of the best tuners' minds and say, okay, how was it that run? Let me know. Just text me over the information. So I got Petty sending me information, and I got Jamie Miller sending me information, and I got all this information, and there's 10 tuners telling me this, and I'm like, okay, there's 7 tuners that told me it was weak at the 330. Well, I got 7 tuners. I know I can fix that area before they come back up. So,
yeah, that's cool.
I sent them back. All right, I did this, and this, but it was a neat deal.
What does that involve? I mean, if so, and I've been there, man. The week at the 330. That's I've done a lot of work with the Proline guys. I know Steve pretty well and Jamie Miller. What do you do if they tell you it's weak? Does it just mean we go out and spray a little harder at the 330, or do you have to go out there and scrape stuff up? Or
well, the thing is, I really don't have to spray. I mean, it's a radial thing. I mean, radials want to stick the tire and go, and they want to keep the tire glued. And if the tire is starting to haze out there at the 330, generally it just means it's dry, or you go out there, the rubber's just not flexible. It's really hard. So you go out there with a rotator, you rotate it, put some fresh rubber down, spray, and then you rotate again, make it pliable and sticky again, so they can run that tire through that area. I mean, that's my best guess for what they need at that point. So, and like I said, this goes back to when I first started dealing with pro stocks here at Braden when I was young. I had no idea what to do for pro stocks. I mean, Warren Johnson was the first guy to roll in here. The Gators had got rained out. He called, and
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
I'm 18 years old.
Oh my God, I can't imagine. I'm sorry.
Warren Johnson's coming here. I was like so excited. So this old man rolls in the gate, and I got the track. And back then I didn't have a dragger. I had a blower and a broom and spray. That's it. I didn't even know what a flat drag was. So I roll in there, and Warren looks at the track. He says, "All right, can you drag the track?" I said, "Well, I have these old tires over here. I can run up and down the track." He goes, "No, you have a flat drag." I said, "No, sir, I don't." He says, "Well, do you have a box blade?" And I go, for dirt?
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, a box blade." So I go bring it back around. He says, "All right, you need to get me a 2x6 as wide as this box blade, and I need some straps. You need a 55-gallon drum. We're going to put some weight on it, and then you need a galvanized pipe." So we take the galvanized pipe through. He gives me some tires out of his trailer. I cut them up, throw them up underneath this. We pitch it just right. He says, "All right, drag it a little bit." He helps me pitch it just right. We start flat dragging the track. And he says, "All right, this is pretty good. It's pretty good, kid." He goes, "Now I want you to spray, but I want you to start spraying at the 60-foot down track." And I'm like, "You want me to spray the start line?" No, son. I want you to spray from the 60-foot down." Okay. News to me, but
Right.
I mean, that he actually literally taught me how to prep pro stocks and pro mods, and that's until to this day that still carries on a lot of the ways that I prep.
Do you give it a different approach today for NHRA pro mods versus pro stocks, or I mean, is there a difference?
A little bit now for pro mod. Pro mod now, because they run Hoosier tires,
right?
They actually like more glue on the starting line. But I take all that information that they have is I think they gathered it from Duck's radial racing, and they applied it into pro mod. That's just my 2 cents. I'm not a tuner,
Sure,
but I can see the similarities now.
Yep.
And I watch these pro mods run on a glued track now, and they're very fast.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is kind of a change. We're starting. Go ahead.
And for the World Outlaw Nationals we had at Orlando, that was fun for me because I could interweave the pro mod and pro stock together on wheel speed and everything. And what it ended with, they had the fastest pro stock classes in history and the fastest pro mod run in history.
Nice.
And I actually had NHRA call me and ask me would I be interested in coming to one of their events to help them out with the prep. And I laughed and I says, "I can't." And they're like, "Why not?" I says, "Because you run fuel cars. If I prep like I prep for those guys, your fuel guys will hate you.
Gonna hate your life.
Tires, they'll pop tires, they will not like you at all." And they're like, "Oh."
So the fuel guys can't run on a completely glued surface then, is what we're saying? Is that what I gathered there?
I honestly think they would have to go back and redesign the tires for the fuel guys to make them capable of running on a glued surface.
Gotcha.
Can you kind of explain what you do different for each tire compared,
that's a Daniel Feiner question here right now. He was asking different type of preps for slicks and radials. What's the approach and prep there?
Well, I mean, with a slick tire car with a pro mod, they require more wheel speed than, of course, a radial. Has hardly any wheel speed. Maybe a smidge. I mean, like I said, I don't look at your guys' data, but I know with a slick tire car, it's more rubber base than it is a glue base.
And I'll
and
tell
it's
you,
just
2 to
the
4%. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And with the radials, it's more glue based than rubber based, and it's a fine line there. And like Ducks races, the glue LC7 VP is a very aggressive glue, and that's generally what we prep for radials. Now I can make PJ1 work um, for radials, but it usually you have to start in earlier in the week before the race starts to make the PJ1 work like 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 the LC7 does for radial racing.
So, how many different products do each of these manufacturers offer then, or what kind of, I guess, what kind of group of stuff are you picking from?
Right now there's only two. I mean, you have VP Racing Fuel, which Jason Ruckert
Yep,
handles that up. He has
he was on
LC7.
here.
That's
Yeah,
an LC5.
gotcha.
LC7 LC5 is more like a PJ1 VHT product, and the LC7 is more of a it's a very I say very aggressive glue that, like I said, majority of the tracks are using for radials, and the PJ1 is uh, used at NHRA races mandatory. They don't ever vary from that.
Okay, so they have a standard.
Yes, and actually they won't tell you, but they actually have their own glue made from PJ1, and you can see on top of the drums it'll say NHRA use, national event use only. And I can't even purchase that glue. That's glue that it's made from PJ1 and sent to them. So that's specifically made, I believe, for fuel car racing.
Gotcha.
If you'll look at
Okay.
like an NHR event, the track just looks dull and black.
It does. Yeah.
You come to one of my events, the track's more glassy looking, bright. It'll have a dull groove down the center, but it's a totally different look.
That's interesting.
So
go ahead.
For our novice racers that go out to their test and tune on a Wednesday night or a Friday night, do you have any good ways to look at the track or walk the track and tell, okay, this is going to be better with this is more radial prep. You can be real aggressive with it. This is more of a, slick tire prep.
I would say like on my test and tune track, my test and tune is I mean, you can get a slick tire down it. I mean, unless you're out there trying to run, top fuel numbers, you can get a slick down, but it's more radial friendly. I do run more glue on the starting line for the first 120 feet than most racetracks do. I mean, and honestly, they should. In my eyes, anytime you run a test and tune track, you keep your street cars separate. They should be reprepping the surface before any high horsepower cars come around the corner again. I mean, cars nowadays, I mean, most radial cars in the eighth mile are already in the fours at 100, 140, 150 mile an hour. Even the streetable ones. So, yeah, like I said, if you're going to walk a track, just make sure they have a good rubber base, but not too much rubber on the start line. I mean, and walk if you want to walk the track, just make sure it's firm all the way down. Look how wide their groove is. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can look at.
But do us a favor and don't walk right down the groove, please.
Clean your feet off there.
I've seen situations where like the top is super sticky and it feels like awesome, and a couple years ago I'd be like, oh man, this thing's badass, and then you get a car in there and it lights the tire up. And one thing that I've started checking now, just from experience with other people that are smarter than me, is I'll actually walk out on there and I'll like twist on the rubber and see if it's actually loose, or if it's if the sticky kind of like smears, or if it's like a tight. And I guess that's where the word tight comes from, I guess, when they're talking about track. But what makes that difference, and why is one better than the other?
Well, I mean, if you're looking to check a surface, I mean, go out there and scuff it through. Take your foot and scuff it through, and see if it goes to the base. If you can or is it just one layer of glue on top? It just depends on what tires are dragging with. How well they cleaned it. There's so many factors, especially now event tracks. Usually they'll scrape it, they'll drag new rubber, they'll put resin down, they'll drag it in, they'll spray it, and they'll drag it in, they'll spray it. They'll kind of massage the surface in. But sometimes you go to a test and tune track where the guy just got in there at 5 o'clock, ran the tractor down a couple of times, then sprayed. Never really massaged it into the surface.
So me and my buddy keep going back and forth on this. So is it, and maybe it's different for every guy that preps, but what's the order of operation typically? Because like we watch, a guy at one track and he'll spray, drag, and then there's another guy who will spray, drag, and spray, and he'll leave a top coat of spray. It's like, is there different situations that call for a different combination of spraying and dragging?
Well, no, I think it's what they get there in a different way. I mean, I would say it would be similar to you guys tuning cars. Not every one of you tuners are going to do the same thing every time. You're always going to get there a different way. And some guys are more comfortable. I like getting the surface right and then leaving a nice layer of glue on top. And then, because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have 4 radial cars, and the radials like the glue. Now, if you go out there and you spray and then you drag, you generally knock that stick off the top. And it being I use preferably PJ1 on sometimes, then I just like to have the glue on the top just so the tire will stick.
So can you talk a little bit about the time that it takes the glue to actually flash? I think a lot of people don't know that you can't just spray and instantly go down the track. And that depending on the weather.
Well, depending on how you mix it. Now, I like mixing glue, what they say 50-50. 50% isopropylene or methanol, if you want to call it, 50% glue. At that thin of a mix, I mean, it'll dry within 2 minutes. Sometimes, if you go fast enough, it'll dry within 30 seconds, depending on speed, how fast. And then some guys want to spray 100% glue. Well, the bad thing about the 100% glue, it feels sticky and straight and everything, but it takes 24 hours for 100% glue to cure.
Oh,
so
no kidding! That's awesome. Holy shit! Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Since they're mixing it with like an alcohol base, I'm assuming that's why the temperature makes such a big difference. Like when it's cold,
exactly
it takes.
Right. If it's cold, it's going to take a little bit more time. And if the water grams up, because alcohol will attract the moisture in the air.
It's hygroscopic. Yeah.
So do you change the mixture based on that, or you stick with that?
Well, down here in Florida, I can stay with pretty much 50-50 all year round. Especially in the summertime, you don't want to go out there and spray, 75-80% glue. Now, in the wintertime, you can thicken up the mix and it'll dry quick enough if it isn't below, 50 degrees. So, but you generally rule of thumb, but 50-50 will get you by no matter what you need to do. I think NHRA right now is at 75 to 80% glue on however they spray. So,
and is there a way, like, for a racer to easily identify, like, that's still slippery, I'm not going down it?
Other than it'll actually have I hate to say it, but it'll look like it'll be like a wet lake. Now you can see it's shiny out there sometimes, but when it's still not dry, I mean, you can be underneath the right lights, you can tell it's still wet.
Okay.
And 9 times in, I tell anybody, park it in a water box and have your crew guy walk out there and just, take a look at it. But, anywhere I'm at, we'll generally make sure everything's dry and good to go before we send anybody down.
Yeah, before I kind of learned to look for that, there was several instances where I had customers at the track and they would spray it and we'd be the first car down and it would just like spin like it was on water going down the track. It was so bad. And I learned over time, like, hey, that stuff has to dry, and half these guys don't pay attention. They just glue it and walk away and let you do your thing.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, and if they're running the thick amount of glue, it takes a lot longer for it to dry.
Yeah.
Here's a dumb question, but the big events like NHRA, do those guys bring all their own equipment, the tractors, the drags, all that stuff, all the sprayers, everything? Is that all theirs that travels with them?
Yes, NHRA sanctions probably take all with them.
Got it. Okay, so that's why they're tight on the. That makes sense why they specify the mix and the chemicals so tightly. Then okay, cool. Let's see, Kevin Eisenbach. Go ahead.
No, There's a question out there now. What is rosin designed to do? The rest of his question is not worded all that. I know as the first car down after I've blown the tires off on the hit in a car that should have hooked without issue. What is rosin? I assume he's talking about gold dust. What do you use it for? What's its job? What's its intention?
Gold dust is what it is. It basically pine. It's the pine sap. All it is there to try to help the rubber adhere to the racing surface. What NHRA and Pro Stocks have used it for, I don't know, probably 20 years. Their surfaces are so lacking of glue. With enough heat, it'll be sticky enough to help the rubber bond to the surface, and still allow the tire to spin controllably as the car is moving out. Now, resin to me, any form of gold dust, effectively gold dust, on a radial race should never be used because, you're not looking for wheel speed. Now that's why like BP's came out with SLR starting line resin. It's a liquid form, and it seems to work pretty well in the radial format, mixed with some glue to help, patch bald spots. But we've learned to patch them with just good old fashioned rubber.
Yeah. There's another gentleman actually out of the UK says that apparently, I'm assuming with all the shutdowns and everything, they're going to be racing into the winter this year to get their races in. And he says he's going to be racing down at 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, which by my math is 32 degrees our temperature.
Yeah, it's like freezing plus. Yeah. I was going to say Barneel's going to know.
Well, he's asking what compensations you would make racing that cold.
If it's in the middle of the day and the sun's shining, I don't see it being a problem. But if it's a cloudy day and the track,
it's the UK. It's gonna be cloudy.
It's gonna be cloudy.
Yeah, he's over in England.
I would say good luck. Honestly,
sucks to be you, Liam.
There's ways to soften the rubber and stuff. We use methanol, ethanol, ketone, which is MEK. You can put it in the mix to help and soften the rubber base when the track's really cold, but it doesn't last very long. So, I don't know what them guys are thinking trying to run in that type of weather.
How do you mix the stuff? I mean, do you got a 50-gallon barrel and you're sitting here with drops of this and drops of that? Or I mean, it's like it's starting to sound like a witch's cauldron thing.
Well, it's like when I got here to Braden, I built my own mix tank, and basically I can mix everything into that tank. It's 250 gallons. I got a pump on it and everything, and I pump the drums into this container and actually mix it all up before I put it in the sprayer.
So how often do you make changes to that mix plan? I mean, is there ever a time you're like, oh shit, man, I need a little bit of bat's breath over here and a couple more toad's legs? Or, I mean, is that ever happen midstream?
A little bit of spray rig if needed, but I mean,
gotcha.
Really, you can make the changes, just with speed. How much glue and you're putting down at what rate of speed. If it isn't drying quick enough. And I'm a big fan of putting it on layers, building a base.
Do you guys ever pull the track? I think Scott Travis is asking here, and this is some of our Street Outlaws friends.
I call that the suckometer. It just tells you how bad your track sucks. So, honestly, man, I watch some guys come up there with those meters, and one meter will tell you, oh, it's pulling 400.
Say it. That's exactly what my experience was. Go ahead.
320. Next meter says 550. Next meter says 280. I mean,
yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, it means nothing to me because, I mean, I could take one of those meters one day and completely out of the groove, over where I don't even spray, put it on the ground and pull 300. And I'm like,
yeah, that's my experience too. Is I do not have good luck with capturing any kind of useful data from those things. It changes by the minute. Yeah,
all the data you need right there on your laptop that you get from the car.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is. How much power could I apply, and how much wheel spin did I get over chassis speed?
Exactly.
Yep.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you, Wade, and it's something that I have pointed out, and actually something we were talking about today. And for those of you who don't know, I was lucky enough to be able to race a Wade Prep surface. Spoiled enough to be able to race a Wade Prep surface the last 5 or 6 years. How do you know when? And I know there's a lot of track guys out there that, the track's going to shit. Will you go spray for me? And Wade has you have to, on time and time again, say it doesn't need to be sprayed, it needs to be drugged. You know when not to prep, if that sounds right. Everyone's always out there, quick, go spray for me, and Wade will say, no, I don't need to spray. How do you tell that difference? How do you look at that track and go, you know what, I don't need to spray that track. I just need to run the dragger down a time or two, and everything's going to go A to B. What makes you make that call?
Well, sometimes, I mean, I'll run the dragon just to make you guys happy. But
Thanks, bro.
Now it comes out. Oh shit, that's great.
Tuner opens the
Because you're
laptop.
all a bunch of bitch ass tuners. Yeah.
Listen, I mean, I know
tuners.
you tuners. I mean, you got the owner sitting there with all kind of pressure. You need to go. And I see the concern in your eyes, and you're like, man, this motherfucker needs to go. I'm sorry, it needs to go.
You can curse. It's okay, man.
Let him catch his breath while he's on, and I'll run the dragger down it just to make him feel better.
I feel better about that now. I really do.
So much better about this. Yes, he nailed it. Because then you're paying 20% to duck, and you got all this bullshit pressure on you. That's hilarious. I'm just gonna do this and make you feel happy. That's hilarious. Oh my god, I'm dying over here.
But honestly, man, sometimes it's just I guess I've done it so long. There's a point when it just feels right. I hate to say that, but it's just
No. I mean, it's a skill, man. It's not something you can type. Do you think you could write a step-by-step set of instructions for a noob guy like me to go out there and make a track prep great for a weekend event? I don't think so.
No, I mean, it would take a lot of paying attention. I mean, you would watch every car, and listen, I mean, it's no different than me seeing Eric Kinward tune a car and how he sets it up. I can almost know how he wants to track. No different for Perduto, but like Perduto, I understand. He'll walk out there, the car, blow the tires off. Well, I know when he comes back around the corner, the car's going to go straight down the racetrack because I know he has that knowledge that in his back pocket because he don't care. He just wants to get the car down the racetrack. And then you got
sounds like Perduto sent somebody a PayPal. Go ahead.
It's like Petty. Petty, has certain ways he wants the track set up, and I've learned that. And Jamie Miller, I've learned him. I mean, it's just, I like.
And there's a difference
more than I do a car owner because the tuner will just tell me what they want. A car owner just, I just want that thing bitching, man. I want it sticky. I want it,
And that's when you go get the dragger and run it down just to shut them up, right?
Exactly.
Listen, if you guys are there tuning the car and you come away, just listen, man. We lost in the semis at the last track because it was hot, and we need to work on our hot tune-up game. Well, then you don't want a stellar racetrack. You want a practical racetrack. You just told me that. So you don't want it killer. You want to learn how to go A to B on a practical racetrack. And that's why a lot of people come test with me because I'll listen to what they want.
We do that a lot with the no prep stuff, like our local track. We'll do a rental, and Dean, he's a super nice guy. He's like, well, what kind of surface do you want? We're like, look, we're testing for a decent, like a 8 out of 10 no prep track, or we're testing for a -1 no prep track, and he'll make it whatever that is that we're testing for. And it's awesome because we'll get tune-ups for complete shit. We'll get tune-ups for like a 5 out of 10, and we'll have tune-ups for like a 10 out of 10. And it's actually pretty cool.
That's if you ever go to a test session with Wade, typically he'll have 1 lane prepped radial, 1 lane prepped skip, or prepped slick. So you can go out there and you can beat that radial lane down to a T, and then you got half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours lleft, whatever. It's like, hey, let's go make 2 or 3 in that right lane, in that slick tire lane, and let's have a tune-up saved in the computer that's going to go down that lane too.
I like when we're out there and all the radial guys are running, and we bring the big tire car out into the radial lane, and they all look at me like that thing's never going to go fucking down the track. But little do they know that we've tested on that surface multiple times in private sessions, and it'll go right down that surface without a problem.
Well, and the thing is I as tuners and people that worked on cars, you want to have all that information in your bag. I mean, that's what separates the men and the boys at the end of the day. When others can't and you can.
And it shows, especially, and we used to have a laugh. So the guys at Orlando, especially the guys in Quickies over there talking crap on the chat right now. Okay. And you talking about the joking of how many broken cars can we line up against the wall tonight. And literally, you would watch the starting line guy. If you let that car sit there for 2 or 3 seconds, if you let him take that second bulb and you didn't flip the switch right away and it sat there in that glue, it was a CV axle every time. And that was, you hear him come up on the brake, flip the switch, and boom, CVX come out and you're pushing him back. Wait, how do you go about on your typical Wednesday night? And I'm going to put Wednesday on you because I know it's the nights you hate the most. When you've got 300 cars in lanes 4, 5, and 6 in the streetcar lanes, and then you've got to make that jump back over to lane 1, and here comes that, let's say that import that's going to go out there and go 421. You know what I mean? Or 580 in the quarter mile like they like to do on a Wednesday night. How do you keep the track good through the street cars and then still maintain it for the fast guys?
Well, hey, my job. That's your job. Listen, I just go out there and do what I do. I mean, listen, your street cars, yeah, you're gonna have probably a 5 to 6 foot bald spot, but generally it's not that bad. As long as you started with a good base, it's not that hard to get it back around. I mean, I'll tell you a story. I had all of you know Dan Parker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I don't know. Does he know? Wait, hang on. Before he goes into the Dan Parker thing, does he know? I don't know if you know this, but we're the group. A number of us actually went with Dan to his event and helped. We were like James Short here tuned his Corvette. Mark Dahlquist, who's not on here tonight, did the turnkey and all the wiring on that car. So yeah, we know Dan real well.
Would that be the Dan that makes these pens that I have right here in my hand? Shameless plug for Dan Parker, the blind machinist. Just saying.
Like I said, Dan came to South Georgia. Me and him got our wires crossed one time, and we had I don't know, it was some kind of street event. There was 350 street cars there, and Dan rolls in the gate, and I'm looking at him like, nah, what's he doing here? He comes to the corner, and he's like, wait, what's all these street cars here, man? You told me there was gonna be slicks. I'm like, Dan, that's next week, buddy. I got a pro mod session next week. Oh man, he says, well, we got to shake this car down. You think it's gonna be okay? And I'm like, fuck it, sure. I'll prep it before you come out. So we've been running street cars for 2 hours, and I'm keep looking back at Dan. I'm like, you got to be bringing that Corvette over here pretty soon. Finally, he rolls up in the lanes. I'm like, all right, shut the street cars out. We'll go down and then prep this one lane for him. I said, Dan, which lane you want? He goes, whatever the best one is. I'm like, okay, which lane you want? So I go out there and get the track ready for him, and I'm like, okay, I'll just treat it like I'm starting over again. So I go out there and I put gold dust to probably the tree, and we flat drag and broom the whole track in. I go out there and walk it, and I can hear Warren Johnson in my back of my head going, son, just spray from the 60 foot on. I said, shoot. So I'll spray from the 60 foot on. So he goes out there, and lo and behold, he goes straight down the racetrack and runs his career best on the first shot. And I'm
Sweet.
like, no. And I'm like, no shit. He comes back up, giving me a high five and everything. Hey, man, we want to do that 2 more times. I'm like, all right, we'll try. But I mean, honestly, it was the tuner, everything was right, and he did a heck of a job driving. Car went straight, and it comes back to it. I mean, I just think sometimes people expect a lot out of the racing service sometimes, when really it was their car that got them to go down the racetrack anyway.
Yeah, it's funny. People just think of Dan as the blind guy, but he's a world-class pro mod, nitrous pro mod champion.
Yeah,
boy can drive. Yep.
He's an awesome driver, and he's an awesome guy, man. I mean.
Yeah, no, we love him. Dan's usually on our show. I'm surprised he's not on here tonight, but he's a very frequent guest on the show, and all of us helped him with that.
That red Corvette. That was crazy.
I'm going to go in the exact opposite end of the spectrum, because not everybody has Wade tracks to go racing. Have you ever been to a track and been like, oh, man, this is really shit. This is horrible. What are the things that you need to look for when it's not a good track? When you go, okay, this is really bad.
I've actually, when Sunshine, when I was there, that was a horrible racetrack. That's where, I probably learned the most about how to help a track work. I mean, but when you get there and you go out there and You go out there, grab your set of keys. You go out there across the track and run your key across the track about 60 foot. And if you're balling up a bunch of rubber, on top of your key, it hadn't been scraped in a long time. Walk out a little further and see how pliable the rubber that's on the surface, or if it's rock hard. That's how you'll tell more than anything how well the track is maintained.
When you have to take up rubber or scrape it, what's involved in that whole process? I mean, we got to take up a bunch of rubber. We got to get out heat.
Don't ask him. That's the worst part of the track. He's going to be so.
That's every week, man. I mean, on a busy racetrack, you're going to scrape it every week. Sometimes you have machines that'll help you do it. Sometimes you got to do it by hand. I guess that's probably about the worst of prepping a racing surface is getting off the old used rubber. But like I said, it's got to be pliable, man. It's got to be fresh off a tire. I mean, if it's been out there in the sun, been baking for the last 120 days,
it's going to be hard.
That's not.
So I mean, do you have to torch that stuff off, or do you hit it with a skid loader with a special tool, or how do you get that off?
One torch and a blade.
Ugh.
You ever the scraping tile blades? You push.
Yeah.
By hand. Yeah. Those are that's it.
That sucks.
Yeah, it is.
That's when all the rest of us are at Applebee's. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Real quick, then you want to talk about the most thankless job, and you want to talk about some of the stuff a track prep guy goes through. We were sitting in the tower one night, and on Wednesday nights, all full hour, I'm with Marco out there, and we'll announce. And you've never lived until you've seen Wade. One guy comes up in the tower. This guy happens to be on radials. He comes up, Wade, that track's killer, man. I can't thank you enough. Blah, blah, blah. Wade, all right, no problem. The very next guy up the stairs in the door, slick tire guy. Wade, that track's horrible. I can't go down that track. And okay, buddy, thank you. Wade just waves. It's just and talk about a job where you're the hero and the villain all the exact same time, and everyone's mad at you no matter what you do.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the one guy the tuner gets to blame because usually we're to blame, right?
Of course.
It's all good, man. I get paid good money for you guys blaming me, so I'll be all right. Like I said, man, it's on at the end of the day, it's really up to you guys. I mean, more than anything, and also chassis and tires and everything. But I just try to be consistent on what I do, so the changes you guys do make has an effect on the performance of the car. So I try not to go out there and chase it and make it too different from the last time you came up.
That makes sense.
What should a guy going to a track know to ask or do, especially if they isn't a track they've been to a lot? How should they ask? Or I mean, assuming they don't already know from looking, or they have a traction tester, what should they be doing to make sure that their setup and what the track is doing are simpatico?
Walk out on the surface. I mean, if you're not going to be the first couple cars down the track, walk out there and watch the cars launch. Usually you can get a pretty good baseline after the first 2 or 3 cars launch off the line, what the base is like on a racetrack. Go from where they launched at. And if the track still feels really good from where they launched, or they launched and now it doesn't feel like anything, that just tells you that there's really not a good base underneath it at that point. And, you're most likely going to have to detune. If you got radials, you probably need to stage up in the glue and not in the dull spot, and, don't be afraid to ask, the guys, hey, when's the last time you guys scraped, or what traction compound do you use? If they go, oh, we use LC7, well, if you got a radial tire, it's probably going to be more exceptional for the radial. If they use PJ1, hey, what mixture do you run? Do you use 50-50? Do you use 80-25? Do you use 100%? I wouldn't be afraid. And if the guy wants to be dickish about it, then honestly, he's trying to hide something, or he just don't know anything at all.
What does PJ1 cut with? What does PJ1 cut with?
Methanol, and pretty much any traction compound is cut with methanol or isopropylene. But not too many tracks will buy isopropylene because it's so expensive.
So there's somebody in here claiming that you. Well, let me just ask: have you guys ever done things like made bets on how many axles, differentials, or transmissions would break on the starting line? That ever happened?
I won't lie. We've done that. I mean, I've had an owner tell me because we had a front wheel drive event one time, and the front wheel drive guys were complaining that they were spinning. And the owner came up to me and says, "Listen, I don't want to hear another complaint the rest of the night. I want you to make this thing right." I said, and I told him, I said, "Listen, if I make it right, you're not going to have any competitors the next day. I don't care. I want it right." Okay. That round of qualifying, there was 18 cars. The next day, 2 showed up because they were all broke.
Wow.
I told him, I said, you don't want to make it that good right now. Let them spin a little bit and let them adjust their tire pressures and stuff like that. And no, he wanted it right. So there was 2 cars left.
So here's another question.
The front-wheel drive guys all run bias ply, right? So they need a little wheel speed anyway, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know anything about front-wheel drive, so.
Yes, they all needed some wheel speed, and I saw that. And like I said, there was a lot of guys that were from out of town, not used to the traction where I was at. So I didn't want to kill them on the first night. I wanted to kind of ease them into it so they could adapt to it. We didn't have a lot of broken parts. Because, the front wheel drive cars are notorious from breaking transmissions and axles and stuff like that. They're really hard on them. But, it was one of those deals with the owner. The owner told me to do it, and I fixed it, and the outcome was 2 cars left the next day.
And a lot more work for you to clean up all the broken shit, probably.
Well, honestly, the front wheel drive guys are nowhere near bad as what they were years ago. I mean, now they have all these belly pans and everything underneath it. You don't see much fluid from them cars now. I mean, they just break a lot of parts.
So here's a question: what's the typical night's cost in the chemicals that you'll spray? I mean, I guess the track owners are looking at, hey, I got a certain expenditure limit here. I got a budget. What can that range of cost be in chemicals typically for an evening?
For a quarter-mile racetrack, you're probably looking at around $1,200 for chemicals. For just to be like it should.
In one day's worth or one event's worth?
One night's worth.
Wow.
On a regular test and tune.
Yeah.
I mean, a drum of PJ1 will set you back $1,100, and a drum of methanol will set you back about $200.
What about a big drag radial event like Lights Out or No Mercy? A big difference there in cost?
You're spending with the LC7. I think the last event we went through that would have been around $7,000 worth of product.
Ooh, wow.
So when you see those $350 test session bills for 8 cars, don't be so upset anymore, guys. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense.
It's changed so much in the years that I've done this. I remember when PJ1 VHT was, a drum of that was $250. Now it's $1,100.
Well, look at the difference in cars. I mean, I've handed you time slips out of cars now with power window stereos, legitimate street drivable cars going, dare I say, high 460s. I mean, 140, 155, 156 mile an hour street cars not out of the question anymore. And it's not like the old Friday night where we went out there and we made a 12-second quarter mile pass and we were all high-fiving each other. Like now it's, you got to prepare for a street car that looks like just any other car on the road can come out and have 1,600 horsepower under the hood.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, cars are so much faster than they ever have been.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's for sure. Shit really picked up this last 10, 15 years. I mean, I guess it's probably always been like that, but yeah. Cool. Anybody else got more questions? Otherwise, we're going to let him go. Better keep him coming.
I can call Wade whenever I want. Hit him with everything you got.
Yeah. I was going to say, fire away if anybody else has got questions. What in the
Bill,
hell?
I don't know what that was, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, you sound like a robot.
Yeah. You sound like a pleasure bot.
Play it back to him.
Pretty sure
it's on there.
Wade, there is a guy asking if you are going to be helping Cletus get his Cletus races at Bradenton, so I assume he'd be their guy.
Yeah, whatever Cletus needs.
Bill, bro.
I don't think he can hear us. I don't think he's caught up
I
yet.
muted him, but it's still
trying
like
to set up.
Oh wait.
What? Okay, good. I don't know. Yeah,
carry on. Whatever the
Cletus.
question. I muted him. We're lost and losing him.
I was waiting for the Cletus speed.
Oh, he's asking the Cletus
You keep
question. Go
muting
ahead.
me.
Oh.
What did I? No,
We're muting you because you sound like ass.
fuck out of here.
Everyone have a drink. Everyone have a drink. Relax.
No, my question was, for a guy trying to do this high power streetcar thing that more and more people are doing, from your standpoint, what should somebody be doing to set up a car like that? Should it really just go ahead and be a slick tire car, or should they be trying to get down on a small radial? I mean, if you're trying to be the guy that shows up the track and runs the big number, Scott Evans, what kind of tires and how should you be setting up your car? Because it's nice to come and be the hero guy, but you're probably not going to do it on a 235.
Honestly, I would set it up on a slick, and I would set it up on a radio. I mean, you depending on where you're going to race at, you need to be able to, go back and forth. That's just my 2 cents. But listen, I'm a track guy. I'm not a car guy. The radials are obviously faster, but depends on sometimes of the track prep and where you're at. If a radial is you can even make it happen. Again, if you got a good enough tuner, or if you're not a good enough tuner yourself, even the radial would be faster than the slick, even if you have to kill it out of the hole some. So I mean, it all depends on you, I guess.
I will say, someone that pretends to be someone that pretends to be a tuner on random occasions, having weight prep tracks and drag radials has spoiled these people out there now that think they know what it takes to make a car down a racetrack.
Yeah, I agree with that.
100% agree with that.
I'm going to agree with that too. I'm going to totally agree with that because it's 5-6 years ago. Yeah, radial events up here in the Midwest are a lot trickier than they are down where you guys are at when Wade's prepping.
It's like whenever we go to World Cup finals or we go to Orlando, it's like my job is 1,000 times easier because the track is just so good.
Yep. Well, before we had Wade in Orlando, before Ozzy bought it, we called it Spin World because it was bad. And that was the big joke. If you could have gone down Orlando before when these guys took over, it was, okay, I could take a nap now between rounds instead of having to actually work.
Yeah, I remember when we finally got the track, somewhat decent when I got there, everybody was on the bumper, and I'm like, man, does anybody know how to get down a racetrack other than the bumper?
Oh, cocky things track prep guys say when it's working. There's a lot of them.
One thing, just while we're touching on the subject, one thing that it's I've kind of learned the last couple years dealing with a lot of newer race cars, from the beginning of the projects, is that, and this is for people listening, when you do build a new car, oftentimes it's worth it to drive from Texas to Florida, or from Pennsylvania to Florida, or from Texas to Maryland to go do that initial, testing on a track that is really good, because there's so many things about the car that you just cannot learn on a crappy track because you're never really able to apply the power and the way that makes shit happen in the car. Like the more power you apply to a car, the dynamic of what the chassis does completely changes. So, if you have a serious race car and you want to get it lined out, it's especially if it's like, a really serious race car, it's worth going to a really good track and just work all the bugs out before you try to go down a crappy track and make it happen. Just makes things a lot easier.
We've had a couple of no prep guys come here to test, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? Well, just trim it and drag it off. Okay. It's going to be too good. And I'll drag it off.
Ryan Martin, I remember that day.
And it'll shake. And he says, well, it's still too good. I said, well, I haven't even sprayed the damn thing. And they're like, what, can you scrape it some more? I said, you can see concrete. And he's like, well, wait, it's just too good. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I've worked so much on this racetrack. It's hard to make it bad. I said, I can go out and get some sand and throw all over it, and maybe that'll work for you.
He wouldn't be the first.
I ended up giving South Georgia a short story, but I said, go to South Georgia. I said, he just scraped it all the way to the 8th mile, and ducks races are, next week. He went there, and they ran their career best, But it's hard to make a good track bad once you get it there.
I will say, to expand on Chris's thing about finding a good track, also spend the money on the private day. You get that intimate connection, that personal connection with the track prep guy. You get to have that conversation. This is what I'm doing. You'd be surprised how many times Wade's come over and said to me, hey, man, it rained the last 2 days, right there about 250 foot. There's some moisture coming through I can't do anything about, and I know to go back and pull some power out there. That private day is worth every dollar they charge you. Spend the money. Don't be a cheap ass. If you have a real race car, like Chris is saying, if you have a serious race car, it's worth the money. Spend it.
Your comment, Mike, reminds me of Shearer's comment about
Bill, sorry, dude.
I love you, Bill, but
they knew everything about that road, beat everybody in the world.
Sorry, Bill. Had to mute you, dude, because
I think you need to type your comments, Bill.
Yeah, you need to work on something there because we ain't hearing shit. No, but hey, there's a really good question just came across YouTube.
I'm in the car in a bad neighborhood, so
we get it.
Blow
you
me.
Catch us at the house. It's all right.
Bad neighborhood.
No. Check out this. Nathan Kaler's got a really good question here on YouTube. What's the spot material they use during the day that gets blown down with a torch during a cleanup or at the launch area?
It's just the regular glue, isn't it? Whatever you're
I don't know. Is it? He said, what's the spot material they use during the day that gets blown down with a torch during a cleanup or in the launch area? Is there a spot material?
I've seen them pour alcohol on like oil to get it up.
Is that what they're doing? Yeah, I mean, I think he's asking, how do you treat an oil down, really, is probably the question I would have for that.
The best way, we have tinning machines here. It's basically water with Dawn dishwashing liquid in it and a degreaser or a floor stripper that we use to get up oil down with. And the tinning machines have like 900 pounds of downforce on the brushes, so it pretty much gets up everything and some of the rubber and some of the glue. So you'll see us re-drag it and reapply it to me, that's the best way. Anytime you got to put rice ash or you got to go out there and use lacquer thinner or anything like that to get up oil down, all you're doing is just smearing it around.
That brings me to a good point to the guys out there listening. If you're driving a car or if you're tuning a car for a driver, please instruct your driver. If he feels something, sees something, smells something in the car seems off. I'm not saying jack on the brakes and wreck the car, but
get off to the
stop
side.
the damn car and get to the side. Get out of the racing surface, because you can take a 3-hour oil down and make it 15 minutes by not dragging the oil the entire way down the track.
LS Fest.
Thank you.
Or the tranny fluid or the coolant or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, we could hear Bill there.
If you see or feel anything, pull over and stop. Just stop. Trust me, the track, they're not going to make fun of you. They're going to thank you. The announcer's probably going to thank you.
Yep. Get over all the groove, Get off the racing.
That's any racing, period. I had track guys come over and shake my hand after I blew an engine up in the middle of Mid-Ohio in the S's and didn't put a single drop on the track.
Oh, yeah, they love
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, like, not only did that look cool as hell, but you didn't fuck up our surface.
High five. Cool. All right.
Ever.
I went down.
I think that's about it.
High five after they blew their motor, and then I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you blew your motor."
Yeah.
But you didn't oil down my track.
You didn't
Sorry about your drive shaft, Ron. It's a real tragedy. Yeah. All right, cool. What's the worst oil down you've ever had? Eddie Ramirez question.
That would have been it was Ted Kane here at Braden. No, I take that back. It was the Skinny Kid blower race car. It was
I know whose car that is. Drag week guy. Sorry, Bailey. Go ahead.
Is it Bailey? It's the
Tom Bailey. The white Oldsmobile?
Yes. He left the line here, blew oil line. This is at my first U.S. Street Nationals here at Braden. Blew an oil line hit the left wall, hit the right wall, hit the left wall, hit the right wall, hit the left wall, and then drove off the top end. I don't think he ever came off the throttle. 3.5 hours of cleaning up oil, and I'm just ready to get the first pair back into the water, and this fog bank rolls through, and I had to call the event and split the money.
Wow.
That
And he was,
sucks.
and you know what? He wasn't even in competition. It was a test run.
Sure.
And
Shocker.
after that, I had a hard time letting
Total
people
shocker.
make test runs for the event. That was the farthest one ever.
I think Eddie Ramirez.
I think the big thing is people don't understand that when you've already knocked the tires off, you're not going to set a good time. You're not going to learn anything. Just back the hell out of it and get off the track.
Well, I mean, I understand that to a certain extent. I mean, I also understand the heat of the moment. You're trying to win a race. And, I've seen guys get around guys that shouldn't even won the race, but they do. And they blew a motor. I even had, I think it was last year, year before at the World Sports Compact Track, the guy was dripping oil on the starting line. It was the final round. My starter wanted to back him off and shut him off. I said, no, let him go.
Oh, I was there. I remember that.
I said, it's the final round. Let him go.
Yep.
He won the race. He rolled the whole lane down, but he won the race. And my starter's like, why didn't you back him off? I said, because it wasn't unsafe. And I said, it's the final round. I'm giving the man a chance to win the race. I'm not taking that away from him.
Good for you, man. That's cool.
I like the call.
It wasn't a lot of oil, but he did leave a stream all the way down the track. We had to clean the whole track. But I wasn't going to take it away from the man. And I'd stand by that decision anytime because
right on.
That's
cool.
It's still racing at the end of the day.
I mean, that lets you know that you're in the position you have to make those kind of decisions. That's pressure. That's tough, man. That's why you're good at what you do. Cool.
The starter, he was pretty aggravated with me. I'm like, listen, man. At the end of the day, that is a final round, and the car was running, and I said it wasn't that much oil. Yeah, but we had to clean up the whole thing. I said, well, you can go up in the tire if you want to. Sit down, I'll clean it up.
Ha! Quit your bitching. That's great.
I was there. I actually remember that because that guy was one of my buddies. He's another race car, but they're like, we're buddies with them.
Yeah.
I remember it was leaking, and I'm like, oh shit, they're not going to let him run. And then next thing you know, like you guys lined him back up. I was like, oh shit, they're going to let him run. And like,
yeah. Well, I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, it's not unsafe. It's just it's leaking. Well, he got a little squirrely at the end, but he won the race.
Yep.
Right on. Well, I think we should let Wade go, man. It's been over an hour and 15 minutes. You're a hero for sticking it out that long, man. We really appreciate it, and it was really nice meeting you.
You too, brother.
That was one of our better shows, honestly, to be honest with you. Lots of listeners. You had about 120 people listening at any given point tonight, and by the time you wake up in the morning, there'll be at least 1,500 downloads of the podcast worldwide, so it's pretty cool. There's a lot of people you're reaching and helping out, so we really, really appreciate it, man. Thank you again.
Well, tell them all to come test the Braden Motorsports Park.
Everybody, as soon as there are events, please do whatever you can to support your tracks, guys. I don't care if it's in the UK, if it's over here. Please do anything you can. Get your asses out there. Get your families out there to spectate. Whatever you can. Every single person on this call, our livelihoods depend on that. And we're here and this is entertaining. It's fun stuff. So please get out there, support your track, stay positive, help these guys out. If they're struggling, don't be a pain in their ass, et cetera, et cetera. Give them the best opportunity. But we are looking forward to getting back at it here, and hopefully that's soon.
All right, brother. Well, it was nice meeting all you guys.
Take care. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Okay, anybody else got anything before we take it out tonight?
I think we're
going
good.
Once, going twice. Sounds like it's time to bring in some music and some outro music. But, all right, well, we'll try to get somebody lined up for next week, everybody. Just let us know if you got suggestions for a guest, and we will see what we can do about getting them on here. So thanks again, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you guys in a week.